did you get involved with musical theater and performing growing up?
Well, I grew up dancing. I started taking dance lessons when I was 5, and I did like a little bit of competition, but I quickly realized like, okay, I'm not going to be a prima ballerina. You know, I was like, I like the energy of dancing, but I'm not. I did point for 1 year, and then I was like, okay, not going to do that. My feet can't take it. So I loved dancing, and I loved the storytelling aspect of dancing, but I don't think I had the facility to be like your like extreme competition dancer or ballerina or what have you. And then my mom saw a flyer at our local dance studio for a community theater production of The Music Man. And it was like, hey, we need dancers to come and be in our ensemble. If you can, carry a tune, come audition and be in our community theater production of Music Man. And so my sister and I went, and my sister and I kind of did, she's 2 years older than me, and we did kind of the same thing growing up. We both danced, and then we both started theater. Um, and so we went and auditioned, and we were cast as featured dancers in the community theater production of Music Man. And then that was it. And really, after that, we just found any opportunity we could. And we have a great theater company here in Alabama. I'm from Alabama. And we have a theater company here that focuses on youth education and training, while also simultaneously running a legitimate theater company. And so we found our way into that, and really that was it. And then by the time I was 16, I knew I wanted to audition for colleges to major in musical theater. And I just figured out it was my path, and I didn't want to do anything else. And so then I went to college, and here we are.
Nice. So was there any
Yeah.
shows, whether you were in them or saw them, that kind of had a big impact on you, that when you saw them, you're kind of like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. We got a lot of the national tours come through Birmingham. And so I saw Hello Dolly with Carol Channing. I think I was maybe 5 or 6. And so I don't remember much, but I remember her coming down the stairs, and I remember her voice. And, yeah, so I don't remember a lot of the details, but I remember just being enthralled and amazed. And we also saw Cats I think I was 5. And one of the cats came up to me with like the glow eyes in the beginning, the overture, the cats come out and they like have on their little glow eyes and they run around the theater. A cat came and like got in my face with the glow eyes, and I was obsessed. I was like, okay, I have to do this specifically. I have to do cats, and I definitely want to do whatever it is that they're doing. This is magical. And then I saw, oh my gosh, we actually saw Starlight Express, which as I've gotten older, I look back and I'm like, okay, I'm obsessed with Starlight Express. Who's doing the revival? But we saw those big mega musicals that were touring in the 90s. And yeah, I guess those are the big ones when I was young. And then, I mean, through the years, we saw, a number of tours that were coming through. Yeah, but those are the big ones that I loved when I was a little kid.
And so you said you went to college for musical theater. You went to Penn State. What was your experience like, and what kind of shows did you get to perform in while you were there?
It was wonderful. I loved Penn State. The faculty is amazing. My classmates, I'm still so close with a lot of my classmates. There were only 12 of us in my graduating class, or there were 12 of us the whole time. And so it was a tight knit little family, and really just became, my family. Um, and yeah, I did a lot of shows in college, and looking back, I'm like, God, they're so fun. And it's just, what is so amazing about college is the variety of stuff that you get to be a part of. Especially in my case, I was lucky to be in a program that didn't, um, it wasn't huge. And so everybody got to have a lot of opportunities for the most part, because there were only, 12 to 15 people in each class. And so there were a lot of opportunities, to be cast in a variety of shows. I did, I mean, if you want like specific shows, I was actually, I was in The Wiz my freshman year, which now, I don't really think that would fly, but at the time we overlooked a lot of things. I was Ada Pearl, which is she's like she sings the song The Wiz. Um, we did Sunday in the Park, so I got to do a little Sondheim. I did Peter Pan, which was very, very magical. And, I think that's one of those iconic roles that I think a lot of people and women especially would love to get their hands on. And it was really fun to get to do it in a college setting where you kind of have like, the safety net of knowing I'm in school and, I'm not like taking this on the road and getting reviewed today. I get to kind of learn and grow in this capacity. Yeah, we did Grand Hotel. We did a lot of great shows, man, shows that I still really, really love.
Nice. So
Yeah.
fast forward to your national tour debut was Anything Goes. How did you get involved with that show, and what was the audition process like?
I got involved just by auditioning. I had just graduated and I got an appointment soon after my showcase. So after we graduated, my class took, we all prepared a song and worked on it forever, and then presented our senior showcase to agents and casting directors in New York. And it was soon after that I got the appointment for Anything Goes. And I think I went in like 4 times, and I actually did not get cast initially. And I knew that because I had friends who did. And so, we were all auditioning for the ensemble and going through the process of going in and dancing and then going in and singing and whatever. And I wanted that job so badly. I was so excited to be going in. I was just starstruck by the creative team, and to be auditioning for Kathleen Marshall, I was like, this is so cool. And so I just went in for all those auditions, and then I didn't get it. So, I started to hear of friends of mine who had gotten cast, and I was so nervous for my final audition. And I remember walking out and just being frustrated because I knew I didn't do my best. And so I wasn't surprised when I wasn't hired initially. I was like, it makes sense. I was nervous. Okay, I have something to work on for next time. I need to learn how to calm my nerves a little better, because I just like, I felt like I got in there and just like couldn't do my best because of the nerves. And so then like a month goes by and my agent calls me and says, hey, actually, you got cast as a swing for Anything Goes. And I freaked out. I was so excited. And basically what had happened was like a little trickle down. One of the principals had left, and then the person that had been cast as her understudy moved into the role. And then the person who was a swing moved into the ensemble, and then they needed to fill that ensemble position, and it was me. So I'm so grateful that I was next in line. But it was just a fun little like tidbit of, you just never know what's going to happen. And it was a great experience. It was, some of my first experiences was auditioning in New York for Anything Goes. And so it was good to realize like, okay, I might not get cast the first time. I might not get cast at all. Who knows what's going to happen? You just never know. So it was a nice lesson in keeping, myself open to all possibilities. And I'm so grateful that worked out the way that it did.
And as a swing, how many roles did you cover for that show?
I covered 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just everybody in the ensemble,
Nice.
or all the women in the ensemble.
Awesome. And what was it like getting to perform for the first time in that show?
It was so scary. And I remember walking on stage and being so disoriented from the lights, Okay, so I had been on stage before, obviously. This wasn't my first time performing, and this wasn't my first professional job, but I hadn't been on stage at all. So I hadn't been in lights. I hadn't been in the costumes. You know, I hadn't been on stage when they were teching the show. I was watching from the audience. And I remember just as soon as everything started, I walked out and I was like, oh my God, like my eyes are having to adjust to this light. What is happening? Because, you know, and my brain is moving 1,000 miles an hour and just trying to like remember every single little detail of things that I'm supposed to do. And yeah, it was hilarious how disoriented I felt the first like couple seconds. I was like, oh, right. Like, wow, these lights are bright, you know, because just the feel of a stage is, you can't be, you know, you can't know what that's going to be like until you get up there. And so it was funny. I was like, okay, I forgot how bright these lights are. But surprisingly, the show went well. There were no major mishaps until the very end of Blow Gabriel Blow, which is like the final big dance number that the ensemble is a part of. And I like slipped on my dress or something, and I took like a full to the ground tumble down like a little platform that I was supposed to be doing this choreography on. I was like doing my little dance, whatever, and I stepped wrong and then went like tumbling down the platform. And that was another great lesson. And okay, you know, just be ready for anything. And when you fall, you're just gonna have to get right back up. The ego can't be bruised. You got to keep going. Laugh it off. You know, luckily I wasn't injured. No one else was injured. Everything was fine. Yeah, so my first performance was great, and then had that hilarious little button there on the end of a nice little fall down some stairs.
So you're also in Cinderella, and Cinderella is one of my personal favorite shows. It obviously has very beautiful costumes. Did you have a favorite costume that you got to wear?
The transformation dress for sure. Yeah, getting to, I mean, it was very stressful, you know, because right before it, you're like, okay, is everything ready? Because it's, you know, it's magic and the costume is rigged to do certain things to reveal the next dress. And so there was always that element of like, okay, let me check and make sure everything is set. Okay, it's good, it's ready. So there was a little bit of panic also because, you know, there is an anticipation from the audience, knowing that something's going to happen. This person's got to change clothes somehow. She's going to get into a dress. We don't know how. So just wanting to make it as magical as possible. And, you know, because it is, the costumes were designed to do this incredible transformation, and the wardrobe department gets everything set, and obviously lights and the orchestra have a lot to do with the overall ambiance. But when push comes to shove, the transformation falls entirely onto the shoulders of the person playing Cinderella. She, you know, we were doing it. We're really like, you know, they're like, okay, you're out there now, best of luck. You're, you know, and if something goes wrong, you have to figure out how to fix it. So it was a high stakes moment in the show for sure. But as soon as, you know, you start twirling and transforming, I mean, it's the most magical feeling. And having seen the show and knowing what it was like as an audience member to experience that transformation, getting to do it and knowing that that was the kind of like magic that people were getting to experience, it was so fun and such a gift. Yeah, so I loved that transformation dress, and the second act one as well. So the first one is the big white fluffy one, and then the next one is the gold dress that looks like Belle's dress from Beauty and the Beast. I love that dress too. That one just flowed so nicely. I mean, the costumes in Cinderella were magical. Getting to wear all of them was a pleasure.
And then did you have a favorite song or scene or even a piece of choreography that you liked doing?
Um, yes, I loved, one of my favorite moments in the show was Loneliness of Evening, which is, you know, Cinderella's involvement in that number is minimal. It's like, you know, I don't know, 16 bars or something. But just getting to like I remember I just like would walk around the stage, obviously in a set way that's choreographed, but just getting to walk around the stage and kind of look around and like getting to look kind of up at the set, you know, as though I'm taking in the forest and the magic of, you know, where I live. And and just having them this very simple vocal line. You know, the show was so it was so taxing physically and emotionally, and you know, Cinderella really doesn't leave the stage, and it just felt like a nice breath, you know, a nice calm moment where I could like really feel like recenter myself and just enjoy the moment. You know, I didn't have to change clothes. I wasn't like running off into, you know, some crazy quick change. I remember I like finished that and got to go and just have a sip of water and then go back on. So it was just a nice like moment in the overall show. And um, I, where Cinderella is in this story at that moment is also very, it's calm and peaceful and, you know, kind of looking to her future, but also there's not like any crazy thing happening in that exact moment. It just feels like a nice breath of fresh air.
When you were in Bright Star, you replaced Carmen, who was the original. She did it on Broadway as well. When you went into that role, was there anything that she taught you or anything that you learned from her while you were transforming into that role?
Well, yes, I learned so much from Carmen, mostly just from watching her and being in the rehearsal room with her. So the interesting thing about that was I was in the ensemble first, but when I was hired, I knew that I would be playing Alice. So you know, when I got the offer, they were like, "Hey, you're going to be in the ensemble, and then a couple months later, Carmen's going to leave, and then you're going to take over the role of Alice, and you'll understudy Carmen in the meantime." So I knew that was happening, and so from the start of rehearsals, I, you know, I was learning my ensemble track, but also simultaneously starting to learn Alice and kind of watching Carmen and learning from Carmen, just because she's an incredible artist, and also because I was going to be playing that role that she created and that she knew like the back of her hand. And so I just, you know, wanted to really just pay attention to her again, not just for Alice, but just to learn from an artist that I respect and that I admire. Because I'd seen her in the show on Broadway before I was involved in any capacity. I hadn't auditioned for it. You know, I didn't even at that time think I could ever play Alice. Or if I did, I was like, that's going to be another, you know, 10, 15 years down the line. So I'm not going to play it now. But I was just so taken with her performance and with she's just so individual. There is nothing predictable about anything that she does. And I just remember being so taken with how surprised I was constantly by the choices that she made, the things that she did with her voice, just everything about her is obviously I love Carmen. She's incredible. So I just wanted to absorb all that I could from her artistry. And you know, we had a handful of conversations about Alice, particularly, and really the thing that she hammered home was, don't fight the ride of the role. Because, you know, have you seen the show?
I have not.
Okay, well, I don't know if you know like kind of the story or how the show unfolds, but it's pretty heavy, and there's a lot of trauma that Alice experiences. I was combining those two words. Alice experiences, and just some really heavy topics that come up. It gets heavy, and there's also a lot of comedy because it's written by Steve Martin, but it gets heavy, and it's a big load for Alice to carry, and it's also very vocally demanding, and really Alice has very little downtime, so it's a very difficult role. And actually, when one of the conversations that Carmen and I had, I remember her telling me that she thinks that Alice is harder than Elphaba because she played Elphaba for a while on the Wicked tour. And she was like, yeah. And that was before I took over, obviously. And I remember her telling me that, and I was like, okay, crap, this is hard. This is going to be very hard, because you kind of talk yourself like in and out. You're like, oh, this is going to be hard, but it's okay. I got it. Oh, this is going to be really hard. It's okay. I've got it. And I remember having a surge of like, oh God, I don't have it. I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is very, very intimidating to be playing this role and to be taking over from Tony nominee Carmen Cusack. Yeah. So it really, the biggest lessons I learned from Carmen were trust the ride, do everything you can to be ready for that first moment of the show, and then step on the train and just let it go, and to kind of bless and release, and to let go of perfectionism, which I think is something that a lot of artists struggle with, and I know I struggle with big time, is having to release the idea that every night is going to be the same and is going to be perfect and is going to feel exactly like it did the night before, and just kind of letting each performance be a living, breathing thing that will naturally change and morph and grow, and just trusting that the story and that my facilities as an artist were gonna be enough, because I felt often, and I talked about this a little bit with Carmen, that I often felt like almost crippled in like my fear, just kind of stuck. Like I remember there were performances like I didn't want to go out. Like I was ready, I had my wig on, and I was just like, I can't do this. Like I can't carry this today. I don't know how to do this. I'm afraid. I feel inadequate, just imposter syndrome, like full force coming through. And I would just remember these little conversations that Carmen and I had where she was like, I feel the same way, but you just have to be ready. You have to trust that you are ready and that you know what you're doing, and that just stay present in each moment. And that's all you can do. And of course that's like acting 101, but when we get these jobs where there's so much to carry, it's so hard to truly stay present, because I may be out there singing If You Knew My Story, but I'm thinking about something, I have this new dresser, so I am thinking about like if that costume change is going to go well. I'm thinking about how my voice feels. I'm thinking about like how I look. I'm like, okay, is my wig on straight? Like how's my, I didn't check my teeth for lipstick before I came out here. I didn't have enough water. I'm thirsty. You have 1,000 things happening, and you start to want to spin out and think about everything that's to come in the in the next scene, in the next scene, in the next scene. And then as the show goes on, something doesn't feel 100% right. You have a weird vocal crack. And then in the next scene, you're thinking about how you cracked in the scene before. And you're like, damn, that was bad. I wish I'd done that. It's just this constant spinning of the mind, and the logical mind, like wanting to get in the way of the creative just kind of flowing out from you. And that was something that Carmen constantly hammered home, was like, you just have to stay in the present moment. Let it all go, what's happened before. Don't worry about what's happening next. It will happen, and you're going to be fine. And just trust yourself, and trust that you can do it.
And so for Falsettos, you played Cordelia while understudying another principal character, Trina. What was it like trying to have to learn two principal characters, especially because they're so very far apart from each other? What was that like?
Yeah, it was really interesting, because I have the experience of understudying two principal roles from the ensemble. So when I was in Cinderella, I played Cinderella for a few months on the tour, but I started in the ensemble and I understudied Cinderella and Gabrielle, one of the stepsisters. And also I had swung, so I kind of knew like the brain juggle of understudying multiple parts. But Falsettos was so interesting because I had one of them in my muscle memory. And so like as an understudy, you know, you get more, or at least in my experience, I would get more and more comfortable every time I went on, but I never got to a point understudying where I was like, okay, I can relax. Like this is my regular show, you know, whereas the track that you do 8 times a week becomes a part of your body composition. It's in your muscle memory, it's in your brain. You can do it second nature. You know, it's like breathing. You don't have to be actively thinking about doing what you're doing, and it will happen. And so with falsettos, Cordelia was in my muscle memory, and I obviously, you know, did that role 8 times a week and knew it very well, and knew how it felt to be on stage in the Cordelia track, and obviously was very my vocal line was like hammered into my body, and it becomes second nature. And so then when I started rehearsing for Trina, well, what was interesting is that Cordelia's only in act 2, and so it felt like act 1 was so easy to learn because I didn't have any interference of another track that I knew, because I wasn't in, as Cordelia, I wasn't in act 1. And so learning Trina for act 1 was easy peasy. I mean, I say easy peasy, it's still challenging, but easier than when we got to act 2, where my body would just want to go to this spot, not this spot. And, you know, there were multiple times where I was having to sing just like the harmony below Cordelia's harmony, which I was like, it took so much like, and to have to fight against my muscle memory to get, you know, to effectively do Trina, it was very challenging. It was very challenging. And I only went on one time. I mean, because the tour was only not even 6 months. And so a lot of us didn't miss many performances. You know, it was just a shorter run. And so I only went on once. And I didn't have you know, nothing like stopped the show, but there were multiple moments where I would start to go this way. My body just led me this way. And then I was like, no, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. You're doing this other one. It was so weird. And it was just, it was very bizarre to be carrying the weight of my own principal role while also keeping my mind open to, you know, the awareness that I'm covering that role as well. It was interesting, but something that I do think, or one of the reasons why I think that was a wise decision on the creative team's part, is because there's only 7 people in the show, and it's such a you know, it's such a energetic it's an energetic thing. And so being that I was on stage every night as Cordelia, and like kind of feeling and knowing what it's like to be out there on stage. And I know the sound, because like, you know, when my first performance in Anything Goes, I got out there and I was like, whoa, it's bright and this orchestra's loud and what's happening. It's just a lot. And falsettos, you got 7 principals. And so I think, you know, having me cover Trina while being in the show, I think was beneficial, because, you know, at the very least, I knew what it felt like up there. And from association, I could be like, okay, I know that when I'm Audrey, when I'm Cordelia, Eden is standing here. So I know that I just stand here and now I'm Trina. You know, you kind of have that, I have like a home base to go from. And also, yeah, I know the people. So naturally the cast doesn't feel, I mean, you know, it was wonderful and incredible and thrilling whenever our understudies went on. But, you know, it's a whole new person, and it makes the dynamic completely new and different. And so I think having me just pop in to Trina, it's like, oh, okay, this is Audrey, who, you know, we have this connection with already, that we share 8 times a week. And now she's just in a different spot. But, you know, so I think it was, I understand why they made that choice. And, you know, also, I guess they wanted me to cover it. You know, I think I don't know. I mean, I was surprised because it was my final audition for the I only had 2 auditions and it was my second one. And I didn't even know that me covering Trina was a thing, like a consideration, because I was just going in for Cordelia. And then after I finished like singing for Cordelia in my final audition, Vadim, our music director, he was like, come here, come to the piano for a second. And I just stood at the piano and he was like, do you know Holding to the Ground? And I was like, actually, I do. My sister sang this at her senior voice recital, and I've known falsettos since I was 12. So yes, I'm familiar. And they were like, okay, great. Can you just sing a little bit of Holding to the Ground, which is Trina's, one of Trina's big songs in Act 2. And so we were just standing there. It was very informal. I was just standing at the piano, and I just sang a little bit of Holding to the Ground, and he gave me like, some adjustments, asked me if I could do this, try this, try this. I think he had me sing one other little excerpt from Trina's vocal track, but I can't remember what it was. But then that was it. So when I was hired as Cordelia to cover Trina, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, what? I guess, yeah, they sang me for it, but I didn't know I was like actually being considered. Anyway, so all of that to say that I think it was just an easy and sensible solution to have the cover in a principal role as well. But it really was interesting. And my agents and I had that conversation where we were like, I mean, do we even put this on my resume? Because, I was a principal, I didn't need to have like understudy Trina on my resume as well. It was interesting. So we were like, what do we, I don't know. I love it. I love the experience, and I loved getting to play the role the one time I did. Yeah, but it was very interesting. It was very interesting. I think also, sorry, I'm yammering on about this, but I think that they knew, just based on who casting knows me, and based on my resume and just my track record, I think they knew they could count on me as a cover, because I've covered so much, that it was like an easy, like a no-brainer, like, okay, we trust that Audrey can handle covering a role, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, so I think it just was an easy solution, but very challenging with the muscle memory.
And out of all the roles that you've gotten to perform in, do you have a favorite? And do you have any dream roles that you'd like to play one day?
Oh, they're all my favorites. I love them all for different reasons. Each little role, I think, I don't have children, but I can imagine it's like your children, where it's like, I love, I'm not going to pick a favorite, but there's something special and spectacular about each one. And that's how I feel about the roles I've played. But I definitely have an extra special relationship with Alice from Bright Star. Just, yeah, my journey with the show and what that role kind of did to me and also required of me, and just the magnitude of getting to play that kind of a role that just kicks your ass every night, was really, really special. And I just love the character and the script. So I'll say Alice has an extra special place in my heart. Also, she's like a little Southern girl, and I'm from Alabama, and I think I relate to, or I like that that we have in common. And dream roles, I mean, my standard reply is Glinda and Wicked, and it will always be until I play that role. So yeah, I would really love to play Glinda. I'd also love to create a role, something totally new, and I don't even know what it is yet, but I would love to start to have something from the ground up, and to really feel like, my voice and my creative opinion goes into the creation of a character. Yeah, so I'd love to create something.
And then while out on tour, was there any stage door moments or fan interactions that you've had that kind of stuck with you?
Yes. So many. I love going to the stage door, especially on tour, because, you meet so many people, and so many young people that otherwise wouldn't be able to see Broadway shows. And I know, that's how I saw my first shows, was through, was when the tours would come through town. And so I just, knowing that that's the experience that a lot of these kids are having is really, really special. And I love, meeting everybody, and getting to, chit chat with people that want to stick around after the show. Um, in Falsettos, we had the craziest stage doors that I've ever seen on tour for Falsettos. Obviously I think the cast had a big draw, between the seven. I mean, I don't want to count myself in that group, but like with Max and Nick Adams, Nick Blameyer, Eden, Brianna, like all of these icons, I think we just we had a big draw and a big fan base. And the show naturally has this, a wonderful following. And so many people would share with us what the show means to them, and how it feels like just a safe, warm place for them, as they're, a lot of like teens growing up and figuring out who they are, and figuring out their gender identity, or their, their sexuality, and just working through all of these things that are so difficult to work through and to talk about. And that the show gave them the courage to, come out, or to start to think about coming out, or to just begin to have that conversation with themselves, and learn about themselves, and, love themselves through all the changes that life can bring. And the show has a lot of impact in that way. And I think it's just so beautiful. And helping people cope with loss. That was something that we heard a lot. Just that the show was something that people would turn to when they'd lost a loved one, or, were losing a loved one. There's just so much comfort and love that can be provided from art, and getting to see firsthand and hear those stories firsthand is so special. And with Cinderella, all the little kids and all the little girls, getting this magical experience, and getting to see a strong, smart heroine lead a show. It's all very special. I love the stage door.
And so for closing off today, what is advice that you would want to give young performers who want to be on stage, be on Broadway one day?
First and foremost, learn how, it's very hard to do, but learn how to not compare yourself to anybody else. This is something that I'm still working on, but I think that the mental health that is required, as well as the physical health and resilience to be an actor, they're equally important to me. And I think, just learning how to quiet the voice that tells you you're not good enough, quiet the voice that tells you that so-and-so is doing it better, or so-and-so is prettier, or so-and-so sounds better, whatever. Because I know that is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I think that was something that interfered with my my training and my development as I got, as I started theater through the year, or started going to school and just learning and stuff. And so, I think learning how to not compare yourself to anybody else, and truly finding and never giving up on who you are as an artist, because we're all going to be so different, and there's space for all of us. And, I think we're kind of in this phase in our culture where theater is super popular, and I think that's incredible. But I think that we're kind of falling into a pattern of everybody's just kind of sitting into the ideas of like what an actor should be, or what a singer should sound like, or what you should do, rather than like really like seeking the discovery of who we all are as individuals. And so I think just like honing in and finding who you are, and trusting that you as an artist are more than enough, and that we need you, and we need your special voice, and your particular take on a character or on a song or on a dance, on a set of choreography or whatever. And just never stop learning and look to everyone and everything as a learning experience, and know that there's something to gain and some way to grow in every moment of every day, and especially of creative experiences, whether it's a show or singing in a choir or being in a dance studio and taking a class. There's just so much to absorb from everyone and everything, and just packing your reservoirs full of experience and growth and development, I think, is so important.